This is a very short lecture on Sir Roger at Home, the essay written by Joseph Edison. Sir Roger at Home was written by Joseph Edison. Edison was an English essayist and a poet as well as a playwright. He was born in the year 1672 and he died in the year 1719. His writing career belonged particularly to the first two decades of the 18th century. Edison is particularly famous for founding the periodical called The Spectator in the year 1711 with his friend Richard Steele. Previously, there was also another joint venture by Richard Steele and Joseph Edison called The Tatler. It was also another periodical, the first periodical published in the 18th century, and the first joint venture by Edison and Steele. For some political reason, the journey of the Tatler was halted, and thereafter they decided to publish another periodical, which they called The Spectator. And in its July edition, this essay, Sir Roger at Home, 2nd July edition of the year 1711, this essay, Sir Roger at Home, was published. It was called at that time a paper, okay, and its number was 106. Now, though out of context, but I feel it pertinent to mention another periodical magazine entitled The Rambler by Samuel Johnson in the year 1750. Okay, these three periodicals, first the Tatler, second the Spectator, and thirdly the Rambler, are very famous periodicals, magazines, you can say, which were published in 18th century and which earned popularity not only during that time, but these have also maintained their popularity even in our age, in our time, because of their the style, prose style, because of their artistry, etc. Why these essays are important? Essays in these periodicals are important. You can learn it from Matthew Arnold's very catch line. That is when Matthew Arnold says that 18th century is the age of prose and reason. Okay, so Edison, Steele, and later Johnson were the, in fact, you can say the prose practitioners of 18th century who added considerable momentum to the practice of prose writing instead of poetry. So poetry, which was so far the principal writing practice, now receded, okay, and made a place for prose to develop. These magazines garnered a large number of intellectual essays and stories that were characteristically of 18th century. You must remember, once again, I'm repeating it actually, you must remember Matthew Arnold, who called 18th century as the age of prose and reason. He called it so because no good poetry was composed during this age, and poetry had become quite prosaic. Moreover, literature of that era had sprouted its root deep into into reason and logic and intellect. The prose turned out essentially satirical, logical, didactic, and critical. The philosophical revolutions, particularly in theories, and then the scientific discoveries, etc., were the kind of benchmarks of this era. The essay Sir Roger at Home is particularly important for some few reasons. Mm, because Joseph Edison's contribution to trace out Joseph Edison's contribution to the development of English prose writing during the early 18th century. Okay, so I have made some points on the basis of which we shall read this essay. Okay, I mean to say why this essay is particularly important. Okay, number one, first point is it has got a fine portrayal of characters. I mean, the fine art of characterization of Sir by Joseph Edison. The characterization is full of ease and grace, very much fluent, and here the particularly Joseph Edison here character and portrays the character of Sir Roger in particular, and also the chaplain in general, and also other servants. The second point you should remember is the quality of this essay, the ease and grace of Edison's prose style. Number three, the depiction of the gentle country life in England. Make a note of this point. What is meant by country in English? In English, country means what we know as a village in our language or in our terms. What is country in England is frontier in America. Okay. Now the fourth point is, last but not the least, the novelty of the essay creates a space suitable for a long story, or say a novel. 18th century was the early 18th century was the time when prose writing was developing, and during the time when Edison still were writing, short stories were also not invented, novels were also not written, so only these essays were written, and these essays, they created a kind of space that was suitable for the stories to come and grow, develop, okay, build their edifice. The story of Sir Roger at home, this essay, revolves around the imaginary character of Sir Roger, at whose country home the speaker, or the writer, or Joseph Edison had supposedly visited for a sojourn. Sojourn means to stay for a few days. Edison presented Sir Roger as a living character, endowed with most humanistic values and virtues. He was very hospitable. He was an elderly man and took all efforts to look after the well-being of his servants. Edison took all pains to describe the extraordinary master-servant relationship between Sir Roger and his servants. The servants would cry in tears of joy whenever their master returned home after a long gap. Each servant was readily prompt to bring service to their master, and felt would feel low if he was not employed. Edison also describes the chaplain with fine humor and grace. The chaplain was a gray-headed man who earned honor and respect from not only his fellow servants but also from his master, because in his 30 years of service to Sir Roger, he has never asked for any personal gain or personal favor. Okay, so that is how he in fact earned the respect even of Sir Roger. He always looked forward with humility to serve his master. So that is all about Sir Roger at home from my end. Thank you.